In the stillness of a quiet morning, have you ever caught yourself lost in thought, perhaps revisiting a conversation from years ago, worrying about something far ahead, or reliving a regret? It is in these quiet, unnoticed moments that our mind is subtly shaping our life. The Buddha taught that what we give our attention to becomes the nourishment for our being. And as we age, especially after 50, the patterns of our mind become even more influential in shaping our emotional and spiritual well-being. This video is not just a lesson, it is a gentle invitation, an invitation to slow down, observe, and begin again. Here on Mindful Pathway Media, we offer reflections grounded in traditional Buddhist wisdom, free from the noise of modern science, and rooted instead in ancient truths that transcend time. You may have heard the phrase, "What you focus on, you become." This is more than a motivational quote, it is a profound truth, echoed through the teachings of the Buddha. Our attention is the seed of becoming. When we water the seeds of anger, fear, or craving, those qualities grow. But when we tend to mindfulness, compassion, and clarity, peace begins to bloom. This is your time to turn inward, to choose clarity over confusion, and to live with the ease and wisdom that the Buddha pointed us toward. Let's begin with a powerful truth, the power of kindness and how it's the true mark of elegance, not the kind of kindness that's loud or performs for attention, but the quiet, steady kindness that is born from inner clarity and focus. You see, while many of us start each day with sincere intentions, to be calm, to be kinder, to let go of past hurts, our real progress depends less on what we hope for and more on where we allow our focus to rest. Buddhist wisdom teaches us this elegantly. The Buddha said, "Whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind." That means your focus becomes your reality. You may intend to be peaceful, but if you focus on complaints, comparisons, or regrets, that peace never has a chance to grow. You may want to be compassionate, but if your thoughts revolve around blame or bitterness, that intention stays buried. Especially as we grow older, our thinking becomes more patterned, repeating the same loops we've carried for decades. These habits of mind are like deeply worn paths in a forest, they feel natural, but that doesn't mean they lead to peace. Still, this is not a reason for despair. The Buddha reminds us, awareness is the path to freedom. Like a gardener choosing what to water, we can gently shift our attention. We don't need to suppress our thoughts or scold ourselves for being distracted. Instead, we lovingly guide the mind toward what is wholesome, gratitude, presence, patience. This gentle guidance, over time, reshapes our inner landscape. Ask yourself often, where is my focus right now? Is it draining me, or supporting me? Even one mindful breath can become a turning point. A simple thought of appreciation can interrupt a spiral of worry. Over time, these moments of intentional focus become our strength, our clarity, and our refuge. Let me share a story of my closest friend, Emily, had a life that from the outside seemed perfectly fine. She had a stable job, a warm home, a small circle of good people around her. But inside, she was slowly unraveling. Her focus, every single day, was locked onto what she hadn't achieved. She would wake up thinking about what others had, promotions, families, travel, and compare it to her life with quiet resentment. Even though she wasn't unkind to others, she was deeply unkind to herself. One day, we had a long conversation, and I gently asked her, "What do you think about all day?" She was quiet for a moment and then said, "I think about everything I'm not." That moment broke something open in her. She began to realize that her suffering wasn't caused by her circumstances, but by the focus she maintained. With time and care, she started shifting her attention. She began a simple practice. Every morning, before getting out of bed, she would say one thing she was grateful for and one thing she liked about herself. It felt awkward at first, but it planted a seed. Over the months, her focus began to soften. She still had the same job, the same home, but now she saw it differently. She started offering more kindness to others, not performative, but real kindness, the kind that lingers in your tone and your gaze. She'd stopped to really listen to people, bring tea to her elderly neighbor, or send encouraging notes to co-workers. Her elegance came not from appearances, but from her presence. And people noticed. "You're glowing lately," someone told her. It wasn't magic, it was mindfulness. It was the quiet shift of her focus from lack to abundance, from self-judgment to self-compassion. Emily is proof that our focus becomes our reality. It's not always easy, and it doesn't change overnight, but every moment is a chance to choose again. When you remember that your focus, more than your intentions, holds the power to shape your peace, you begin to water the parts of yourself that are truly alive. You move through life not trying to be perfect, but trying to be present. And in that presence, kindness flows naturally, because your mind is no longer a battleground. It's a garden. And the way you tend to it, moment by moment, is the quiet, true mark of your elegance. Let's now gently move into the second truth that carries immense weight in our path to peace: how to release emotional baggage and reclaim your mental energy. So many of us walk through life carrying invisible burdens, old arguments that were never resolved, disappointments that hardened into quiet bitterness, and guilt that replays in the back of our minds like a broken record. These emotional loads weigh us down, not only spiritually but mentally and even physically. And over time, they begin to drain our energy, clouding our ability to stay focused, to be fully present, and to live lightly. You might find yourself exhausted without understanding why, not realizing that it is not just your body that is tired, but your mind, tired from the constant effort of carrying what you haven't released. The mind clings to pain when it believes that remembering it will protect you, when in truth, it only keeps you trapped. Buddhist and Zen teachings remind us that holding on is often the cause of our suffering, not the pain itself, but the grasping. To release emotional baggage, we must first bring compassionate awareness to it. Ask yourself, what am I still carrying that no longer serves me? Whose voice am I still hearing in my head that doesn't belong to me? Which memory keeps pulling me back to sorrow or anger? Recognize it gently, without judgment, and begin the sacred process of letting it go, not through force, but through acceptance. Understand that releasing is not forgetting or erasing, it's choosing to stop feeding that thought with your energy. When you do this, you reclaim your power. You allow fresh air to move through your mind and spirit. One Zen story beautifully captures this wisdom. Two monks, Tanzan and Aikido, were traveling together on a long journey. At one point, they came to a muddy crossing where a young woman in fine silk robes stood hesitating, unable to cross. Without hesitation, Tanzan lifted her in his arms and carried her over the mud. She thanked him, and they parted ways. Hours later, Aikido, clearly upset, finally said, "We monks do not go near women." "Why did you do that?" Tanzan calmly replied, "I put her down hours ago." "Are you still carrying her?" This story often stops people in their tracks. Because it speaks to all of us. We may think we've moved on from something, but in truth, we're still carrying it mentally, emotionally. Aikido's burden wasn't the act itself, but the mental replay, the resistance, the judgment. And that's how emotional baggage works. We think about what happened, what someone said, what we should have done, again and again, and each time we do, we tighten our grip. But when we finally decide to put it down, like Tanzan did, we discover the lightness that was always available to us. This story isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. Ask yourself, what are you still carrying long after it passed? A grudge? A failure? An identity that no longer fits? The act of release doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with a breath, a decision not to engage that same thought again. Other times, it means speaking a truth out loud, or writing a letter you'll never send. Forgiveness, of yourself or others, becomes the bridge. It's not a reward for the other person. It's the liberation of your own heart. Letting go allows your energy to return to you. You begin to feel less scattered, less reactive. You become more spacious, more patient, and more at ease in your own skin. And with that reclaimed energy, you can nourish the present moment, which is the only place real peace exists. Just like Tanzan, we must all practice the quiet courage of putting down what we no longer need to carry, not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity and compassion. Because emotional freedom doesn't come from forgetting what happened, but from choosing not to suffer from it anymore. When you release the emotional baggage, you reclaim not just your mental energy, but your entire life. Let us now reflect deeply on how to stop feeding thoughts that drain you, and begin watering what brings peace, a vital shift in mental habit that opens the path to genuine serenity. It's easy to underestimate how much of our suffering comes not from the world around us but from the endless activity of our own minds, overthinking, ruminating, comparing, replaying. These patterns drain our energy, dim our clarity, and leave us spiritually exhausted. Many of us unconsciously water the same thoughts every day: judgments, disappointments, fears, or stories of how things should have gone. These thoughts take root, grow thorns, and slowly fence us in. But Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that where your attention rests, your life follows. If we keep pouring our mental energy into the same anxious loops, we create a life that feels heavy and confined. Instead, if we turn our attention towards stillness, compassion, curiosity, and gratitude, even for a moment, we begin to breathe new life into our inner world. Just as a garden needs thoughtful pruning to thrive, so does the mind. And just as a plant turns naturally towards sunlight, our hearts begin to lift when we feed them with nurturing thoughts. But to truly begin this shift, we must recognize the cost of holding on. One of the most beloved Zen stories captures this truth in a way that is unforgettable: the story of Nanin and the university professor. A scholar came to visit the great Zen master Nanin to learn about Zen. The professor was intelligent, accomplished, and eager to impress, speaking at length about all he had studied and understood. Nanin listened quietly, then invited the man to tea. As the master poured the tea into the visitor's cup, he continued to pour even after the cup was full, until it overflowed and spilled onto the table. Shocked, the professor exclaimed, "The cup is full. No more will go in." Nanin calmly replied, "Exactly. Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and thoughts. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This story is not only about pride or intellectual arrogance, it is about all of us. Our minds are often so full of past experiences, rigid beliefs, and emotional noise that there's no room left for peace. We say we want tranquility, but we cling tightly to narratives that prevent it. We carry full cups of anger, grief, control, fear, and try to pour peace into them. But peace cannot enter where there is no space. To water what brings peace, we must learn the art of emptying, letting go of old stories, loosening our grip on control, forgiving ourselves and others, and choosing to trust the present moment more than the mind's endless commentary. This doesn't happen all at once. It is a daily, gentle practice, like turning down the volume of static so you can finally hear the stillness beneath it. Start by noticing when a thought feels heavy. Pause and ask, is this feeding clarity or confusion? Then, like setting down a bag of stones you didn't realize you were carrying, give yourself permission to let the thought go. Not because it's wrong or bad, but because it's not helping you bloom. In its place, plant a kinder thought. Remember something good. Breathe more deeply. Thank the moment. With each small choice, you water peace. And over time, your inner garden begins to change. Like Nanin, we each must become aware of what fills our cup, and whether we are making space for what we truly seek. The mind will always offer distractions, but you have the power to redirect it toward light. Your peace is not found in fixing everything, but in learning what not to carry. Your thoughts will knock, some lovingly, others like storms, but you choose who gets to stay. Let the draining ones pass. Open the door to thoughts that heal. And never forget, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, the still ground beneath the noise. Choose wisely what you water. Now let us turn to why mindfulness, awareness, and gentle presence matter more than ever after 50, a truth that grows in importance as the years pass and the noise of life begins to fade into something quieter, more inward. In our younger years, we are often pulled forward by ambition, distraction, and responsibility. Career goals, family demands, the need to prove ourselves or build a legacy. Life feels like a fast-moving train, and we are more focused on getting somewhere than on being here. But as we step into our 50s and beyond, something begins to shift. The body slows, priorities change, and we are invited, sometimes gently, sometimes by crisis, to reflect on the deeper rhythms of life. This is where mindfulness becomes not just a practice, but a lifeline. It is the quiet noticing of your breath, your thoughts, the sound of leaves outside the window. Awareness is the ability to watch your reactions without instantly believing them. Gentle presence is the gift of no longer needing to rush or prove anything, but simply to be, as you are, in the sacred now. After 50, we begin to see the wisdom of simplicity. We realize that much of what once consumed us, the arguments, the regrets, the comparisons, are like passing clouds. And while the body may bear new aches and the past may whisper its unfinished songs, we also discover the power of deep stillness. It is not about giving up or withdrawing from life. It is about being more fully in it, with fewer illusions and greater clarity. A mindful moment can ease the weight of old stories. A quiet breath can bring more peace than 100 achievements. But this level of presence often arises from experience, from having lived through enough to know that chasing the next thing rarely brings lasting peace. Instead, true freedom comes from paying gentle attention to this moment and choosing not to be swept away by the mind's noise. And to bring this truth to life, I want to share with you the story of Elena, a high school music teacher who spent most of her life pouring everything into others, her students, her children, her aging parents. She was always doing, rarely resting, her energy stretched thin by the demands of those around her. At 52, she was diagnosed with a minor heart condition, not life-threatening, but serious enough to force her to pause. For the first time, she had to stop. No school. No caregiving. Just long, quiet days at home. At first, she resisted. She said the silence felt unbearable, like she had no purpose. But slowly, something softened. One morning, she sat on her porch with a cup of tea and noticed the sound of birds she had never really listened to before. She watched the sunlight touch the trees and felt a strange sense of wonder that she hadn't felt since childhood. Day by day, she began to read again, not out of obligation, but for joy. She started keeping a small notebook where she wrote down one beautiful thing she noticed each day. She meditated for 5 minutes, then 10. She said it was like learning to breathe again. And in that stillness, Elena discovered something she had never truly given herself before: presence. Not the presence of being useful or busy, but the presence of being. Her heart condition stabilized, and she returned to teaching part-time, but everything had changed. She told me, before, I lived like a song stuck on fast forward. Now I hear every note. Her students noticed it too, how much calmer, warmer, and wiser she had become. She had always been kind, but now she was present. And that presence, born of mindfulness and awareness, was her real gift. This is what becomes possible after 50, when we begin to release the noise of more and begin to treasure the depth of now. It's not too late to slow down, to wake up, to live deeply. In fact, this may be the perfect time. When we meet each moment with awareness and tenderness, we discover that peace is not found in fixing the past or fearing the future. It is found right here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this quiet miracle of being alive. As we gently come to the end of this reflection, let this not be a conclusion, but a soft doorway into a new beginning, a reminder that peace, healing, and clarity are never far from reach. They live in the present moment, waiting quietly behind our busy thoughts and long-carried burdens. We've explored how learning to focus your mind is far more than just a mental exercise. It is the key to unlocking a calmer, more spacious life. When your focus is scattered, your peace is too. But when your attention rests gently on the present, the chaos of the past and fear of the future begin to soften, and the simple beauty of now becomes clear. We've spoken about letting go of emotional pain, not by pretending it never happened, but by no longer giving it the power to shape your present. Pain is real, yes, but suffering is prolonged when we feed it with our thoughts. Releasing it is not about denying it, it's about setting it down with tenderness, no longer choosing to carry what no longer serves. We've turned to timeless Buddhist teachings, not as distant philosophy, but as practical, everyday guidance. Teachings like right mindfulness, non-attachment, gentle compassion, and the power of observing our thoughts without judgment. These teachings offer tools, not rules. Meant to help us live with more grace, more simplicity, and deeper presence. And if you are walking through life after 50, this path becomes even more valuable. At this stage of life, what truly matters becomes clearer. You may no longer be pulled by ambition or noise, but instead, long for something quieter, something real. This is where mindfulness, awareness, and gentle presence step forward, not as trendy practices, but as spiritual nourishment. This is the season for reclaiming peace, for returning to the self that has waited patiently beneath your roles, your responsibilities, your regrets. After 50, your energy is sacred, your time is limited, and your inner world matters more than ever. Mindfulness allows you to stop rushing. To notice your breath. To feel your body. To greet your emotions with openness rather than fear. It helps you become a friend to yourself, rather than your own harsh critic. And through this friendship, something powerful happens. You begin to return home to who you truly are, not who the world asked you to be. We've also explored the power of attention and awareness, how what you focus on truly becomes your reality. The Buddha wisely said, whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind. When you feed anger, you live in resentment. When you feed fear, you walk in anxiety. But when you feed gratitude, patience, compassion, and presence, you begin to grow peace, day by day, thought by thought. Spiritual healing doesn't come through trying to fix everything. It comes when we stop resisting what is and begin showing up for it with an open heart. Healing comes through soft awareness, through kind focus, through the decision to be present for our lives rather than lost in mental storms. This path is not a race, and there is no finish line. It's a gentle unfolding. A breath at a time. A choice to come back to now. A soft reminder that no matter how far you've wandered, you can always return. So as we close this journey together, may you carry these reflections not as information, but as quiet inner truths. May you remember that you are not behind in life, you are on your path, at your pace. May you trust that it is never too late to begin again, not at 50, not at 60, not at 70, or beyond. The door to peace does not close with age. In fact, it opens wider. And the light that enters is gentler, wiser, more forgiving. You don't need to fix your past or fear your future. You only need to be here, now, with tenderness. Breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Place your attention on what matters. Let go of what hurts. Be with what heals. And from this place of presence, go forward, not with urgency, but with trust. Not with pressure, but with clarity. Your focus is your freedom. Your presence is your power. And your peace begins exactly where you are. If this message has touched even a small part of your heart, I invite you to take a moment and share your thoughts in the comments. What part of your life are you learning to let go of? How are you reclaiming your peace after 50? Your story, your voice, may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. This space is for all of us, a circle of calm reflection, growth, and healing. So let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your experiences, your questions, or simply how this video made you feel. And if you found value here, please don't forget to like this video, it helps more people find this peaceful space. Share it with a friend or loved one who might need these words today. And most importantly, subscribe to Mindful Pathway Media so you can continue walking this journey with us. Every week, we'll explore more Buddhist teachings, mindful living tips, and gentle wisdom to help you live with clarity, presence, and inner peace. Thank you for being here. You are not alone. And you are always welcome here.